back here today to do some more work on the blind marrow. So, things that I want to accomplish today: we got the fuel tank out. Had to get that out to put in the bushings for the leaf springs. So, and it made it easier to get the leaf spring in and the shackles and all that, because the bolts are welded to the shackle on opposing sides, so etc. We had to take the tank out. So I had acquired a motorcycle jack from my brother, and by acquired it, I borrowed it. And the motorcycle jack, they are like your best friend, especially when you don't have a lift. They work great for putting rear ends in, but when we did the rear end, there's 3 people here, didn't really need the motorcycle jack. But if you're doing it by yourself, or even with just 2 people, they work great. You just set the rear end housing on there, a piece of wood to go underneath the pig or the pinion to hold it level, and you just roll it in there and jack it up into place. Works great. Automatic transmissions, because they got the flat pan on the bottom, same deal. Just stick it on there, works great for that. The fuel tank, set it on there, jack it up into place, and you know, put the little metal straps around it, and wham bam thank you ma'am, works great. Now for manual transmissions, they're round on the bottom, so it gets kind of sketchy, but it's still easier to use that than it is to just like a regular jack, because I almost dropped my 4-speed one time using a regular jack, but I caught it. 4-speed really isn't super heavy, but it's awkward when you're laying under the car. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the jack on that, or tank on the jack, slide it under the car, lift it up into place, put the straps on. I don't think I'm even gonna jack the car up to do that. Now, pull the transmission out, I'm gonna jack the car up, put it on jack stands, front and the back, and then after I get the front, or after I get the back in the air, I'm gonna come back to the front with a block of wood, and I'm gonna lift it up even higher, and really get it quite a ways off the ground, because for doing this, clearance is your friend. So that's the game plan. I'm gonna try to film as much of it as I can. So anyway, that's where we're at. So what I'm gonna do, turn tunes back on, get the tank into place, and I'll get underneath there and kind of show you what how I'm doing it. So stay tuned. All right, guys. So after pulling the tank on the jack, I realized there was no way in hell that it was going to fit underneath there on the jack. So back the cars up a little bit. So what I do, well, me and Garrett usually do, is when we take the straps and we push them, bend them all the way back, and I got them like wedged against the ground just so they don't fly forward. Then slide the tank into place, get it in place, put it up there. Then I'm just gonna start the bolts and then air ratchet them in. Now, just in case there's any purists out there that think that I'm ruining an old car, if I ever had like a super nice Survivor car, I don't know if I would go through all the trouble. I certainly wouldn't want to like hack it up and mini tub it and do all kinds of crazy stuff to it. But this is definitely not what I would call a Survivor car. It's been molested. Everybody and their brothers had their hands on it. It has rust. It had rust repair. And just to prove that, and demonstrate that this is not a super nice car, I just wanted to take a look at the tail panel here, how many holes that are in it from rot. And there's a piece on the bottom I just pulled out by my hand, a bare hand. So like right here, that's real nice, you know. So just in case there's any purists out there, because I had a bunch of people when I worked at the 24-hour diner in Bellevue, it was like, well, you should just build a small block for it, keep it original. I'm like, well, first I want to go fast, and second of all, this is not a nice car. I mean, it's a decent car, so you know, why not hot rod it? So just wanted to show you all that. But put the tank in and put straps in, and you'll see. I'll show with the motorcycle jack and everything too. Okay, so the tank, it's in the car. I got a couple threads on each bolt holding it in, and the jack's still underneath it too. And grab the air ratchet, because I can sit there crank, or I can just go pull the trigger and let it do the work. So I'm gonna do that. But we'll dive in underneath the car here. We will take a look. All right, so under the car, motorcycle jack, bottom of the gas tank. You get the idea. It works out pretty good. You almost get in a place, and this tank only has about maybe 3-4 gallons in it, and so I kind of tipped it up here on the right side of the car, passenger side, and got it started, and then did the same thing over here. So it's not super heavy. Again, just ignore that kind of, it's real nice right there. And then stock tank life. One thing I do not want to do is do a fuel cell, or if I did a fuel cell, I'd want something to go like underneath here, like stock location, so I still have the trunk. But you can see where the lines hook in. Sorry about the noise. My dad decides to drive by with the lawnmower right now. But right here's where the fuel lines hook in. Real slick, real clean setup. Oh my God, hurry up. The rubber line is for my return because Dash 5 AN super high dollar. So I got good rubber hose. That's for like, you know, high pressure rubber hose to put there. But yeah, because that was, you know, super high dollar. Now eventually when I start making more power, I'll use my Dash 6 as my return, and I'll put like a Dash 8 or maybe even like a Dash 10 feed going forward. So I'll just leave, you know, what's in place, take the Dash 5 stuff out, and I think it's 5/16. And yeah. Oh, speaking of being real nice though, like right here, this corner, yeah, it's that's a certified 4-finger rot hole right there. And yeah, so don't anybody get the impression that I'm destroying a good car, you know, a good, nice, clean survivor car, because that's definitely not the case. So yeah, that's what's going on. Now I'm gonna let the ass end of the car back down, jack up the front after I get the tank all the way pulled in. I won't be able to start the car. I'd like to. Garrett has some wiring to do, but let the ass end down, jack the front up, get on jack stands, then get the back up in the air, rinse and repeat, you know, get the front up even higher, and then we'll start doing the transmission stuff. Guys, so I got the car up on the jack stands the way I want it now. You can see, like, we're up to like, the fender is almost nipple height, you know, just a couple inches below. And I'm about 5'8", 5'9", somewhere in there, so you can see how high I got it. Now, it's a little while later. I get like stressed and sweaty whenever I do this, not because it's physically intensive or anything, but it's like, I don't want to drop my freaking car. So, how do I want to say this? My depth perception is not the greatest. Like, you know, I can catch things, but more times than not, I don't catch things. I usually like will hit it with the front of my hand and stuff. So because of that, I take my time, and I'll put the jack underneath there and just take like the car up, you know, an inch or so, just a little bit of weight off the wheel or the suspension, and then I'll go to the back side here. I'll poke my head underneath there, and I'll look and see where the jack is on the cross member, and then I'll go to the other side and I'll check it there. And I check it from 3 sides just because I want to make absolutely sure that jack is 100% where I feel comfortable with it. And same thing with the rear end, although that's a lot easier to see, especially in the setup, because there's a lot more contrast back there, the way the light is and everything. So that's not as nerve-wracking for me, the back. But the front of the car, I really take my time to do. Because I did this in 2 steps here, like, I'd go up, you know, give it a couple pumps, I'd lift the jack stand up a click, and then I'd go look in the back to make sure that my jack stand isn't like rocking one way or the other. So, you know, and then I'll give it a good shake. I'll set everything back down, I'll give the car a good shake, make sure that, you know, when I'm underneath it and I'm pulling on bolts and breaking stuff loose, that it ain't gonna fall, because you don't want the car to fall on you, because you're gonna die. And or you know, best case scenario, it falls on you instant, like done. Worst case scenario, you gotta sit there and suffer for a little while. At the end of the day, you really don't want someone to like come out here and check on you and then find you underneath the car crushed and lifeless. So it's very serious. I take it very serious, and I take my time. And like, I probably just spent 45 minutes like just double checking everything, because first thing is, I don't want to die, and I guess equally as important to me, so I don't want to drop the car. I don't want to, you know, have the jack go through the oil pan, or you know, have the car fall off the jack stand or something, because then it's probably going to break something, and it's really going to piss me off. So yeah, safety, kids and adults. Like my dad, he's old school, and I've seen him hundreds of times work on something and not even put a jack stand underneath it. And it's like, dude, you're freaking crazy. Like, if that old piece of shit Craftsman jack you have decides to take a shit and not function anymore, like, it's coming down. So, and I have like changed oil in the Malibu and stuff and not used a jack stand before, so I'm guilty of that too. But you know, more times than not, I will use jack stands. And you know, as of lately, I put them on everything, just because it's not worth dying to be a little bit lazy and not throw a jack stand underneath there. So that's where I'm at now. The cross member, I already unbolted that. I had to take it out to get my shifter out, and what I did is I bolted the trans mount back to it, and I just have it sitting on top of the frame rail in place. So all I have to do is go underneath there, take that bolt out, and then I'm gonna put my jack, my regular floor jack with a piece of wood on it, underneath my oil pan of my motor. And then I'm gonna take the motorcycle jack and I'm gonna put that underneath the transmission. And basically I'm gonna support, because this motor, it's on polyurethane mounts. They're probably whooped. They kind of seem to take a shit. But it's also, the way it's mounted is the motor is sit 1 inch back, which makes it a stock small block Chevy location, because LS's on the back of them are flat. And a small block Chevy, I can show you over here, behind the cylinder head. See, right here's where the cylinder head would end. Let me make sure this is in frame. All right, so right here's where the cylinder head would end. You know, they got this big lump of shit right here, you know. So that's basically, you know, adds an extra inch. So for me to use my stock drive shaft with my 4-speed, I got LSX adapter plates, and it gave me 3 locations to mount this motor. And we chose the one, you could mount it like, hold on, you could mount it like all the way forward, which is an inch forward, you know, which would be where it should sit if it was like meant to go in this car. You can sit it half an inch back, or you can sit it full inch back. So we have it sitting a full inch back, but because of that, you can see the mount, the motor mount's like right here. So the rest of the motor's hanging back there. So if there's no jack underneath there, it just goes, and then it stops when the oil pan hits cross member. And I don't want it to like damage the polyurethane mounts and cause them like to rip or anything. So I'll support the weight of the motor with a jack, the floor jack, and I've had it sit down there for like a long time, like weeks at a time, and that jack's never bled down. So I trust it. And if it did bleed down, I guess it's not really that super big of a deal, but you know, or I could throw an extra jack stand underneath it if it, I don't know. I don't think my jack stand would be able to reach high enough, the little ones that I have left. Anyway though, and then the trans, I probably honestly have the car up too high in the air for the motorcycle jack to reach the trans. Or, you know what I'm gonna do? Change of plans. I'm gonna put my floor jack underneath the bell housing, and then start from there. Or no, I'm not gonna do that because I want to take the bell housing out. Yeah, we're gonna go under the oil pan because I want to take the bell housing out. I don't need that anymore. I got a QuickTime SFI approved. If the clutch and flywheel explodes, it's supposed to not cut my leg off. You know, like super high dollar badass bell housing. So yeah, oil pan. These are cast oil pans. They're actually like supposed to be part of the structure of the block when attached. You know, I don't know how true that is or not, but you know, it's plenty strong enough to support the ass end of this motor. And then, you know, we'll try to, you know, get the jacks, or the floor, or the motorcycle jack under the trans. And really, realistically, I only want to have it like barely touching the trans, because I just want to get underneath there and yank it out, and then just have like the trans pretty much just like fall down onto the motorcycle jack, and then hopefully roll the whole thing out from underneath the car. So I don't know how well it's going to work or not, but that's the game plan I'm going to do. Floor jack under the oil pan of the motor, to just, and I'm just going to put tension on it. I'm not trying to like lift the car up with the oil pan or anything. So before I get, you know, reamed in the comment section, all we're doing is supporting the weight of the motor, not anything else. You know, I'm not trying to lift up the car with the oil pan with the floor jack. You know, that would be bad. We don't want to do that. And then, you know, unbolt trans. Putting this thing in and out last time, I have a McLeod street strip clutch in there, single disc, and the splines on are like real tight, so it didn't like just slide in there. And like, it was a real pain in the ass. Like, me and Garrett were underneath there really pushing to finally get that thing in, and we got it to the point where we could get like 2 threads in on the bolts, and we just kind of very gently cranked it in and pulled, you know, it the rest of the way. Maybe the splines have loosened up by now, since it has like a bunch of miles on it, but who knows. So that's where I'm at. As you can see, you know, it's pretty high off the ground here. I hope this is enough. I can always go higher, but, you know, like I said, it kind of, you know, sketches me out. I don't like to, I wish we had the lift set up. We have a lift, it's just not set up. It's been sitting over there for 10 years. My dad, he bought it, had to have it, have never used it, never set it up. Another subject for another day. But that's where I'm at. So, hope you guys are enjoying this so far. Alright, so welcome to the dark side of the car. There's the jack with a block of wood on it, holding up the motor in the trans. The motorcycle jack is not tall enough to reach this high, so I don't know what I'm gonna do yet. I lowered this down some. Well, it's actually probably about where it's at with the cross member in. Here's where the trans mount would go. I took that off already. Then the cross member, both sides. So, worst case scenario, I will unbolt this and kind of just let it chill there. Or I'll unbolt it and support it from underneath, and then I'll lay like underneath it, like drive shaft wise, and pretty much like bench press it out of here. It's not that heavy, it's just awkward, you know. And I might have to, I don't know if I want to jack the car up any higher or not. I mean, we could always go higher. So I don't know what I'm gonna do yet. I'm thinking about it, changing my plans as I go. But right here's where, like this would be 3rd and 4th gear, 1st to 2nd, reverse. Shifter mechanism bolts right here, these 3 bolts. And this one up here is a real pain in the ass to get to. And then when you have the cross member, like, it looks wide open now, but when you have the cross member in here and the shifter and everything, it's not wide open. It's real tight, it's real pain in the ass. And I'm glad to be, you know, gone of this here 4-speed, because I have spent so much time dicking with this shifter, taking it in and out. These bolts used to always come loose, or these nuts here on these studs, so I got these washers here, and then I got nylock locking nuts, and then I even got some blue, it's a JB Weld brand, but it's, you know, Loctite, you know, thread locker, you know, blue's medium strength, and put that all on there. And these weren't super tight, but you know, they weren't loose, and I never had a problem with the shifter again after I did all that. But I used to have to come under here like once a month and tighten everything back together. It was really annoying. I don't know if it would get hot and like the nylon like wouldn't lock anymore, or what, or the vibration. I don't know what was going on, but it was really annoying. The shifter hole here was already hacked up. I hacked it up even more to start test fitting this piece up top here, and so my neighbor will be coming over here within the next week or two and zipping that in. This floor, this metal here is all super thin. It's kind of hard to weld. So the new section is right here, and it's in. However, up top, it's not pretty. You can see right here, actually, some of the evidence of the weld. It's not welded in pretty, but it's in there. The metal's so thin that even with the temperature as low as you can run it and the wire speed up, it just it's thin. It just wants to blow through. So it kind of is what it is. I'll cover it up one day with carpet and insulation. But till then, you guys can just look at it. But that's where I'm at. It's gonna be a real pain in the ass. So yeah, we'll talk to you soon. Okay, guys. So big moment here. 4-speed is out of the car for the last time ever. BorgWarner T10, aka it's aluminum case. I don't know if it's technically the Super T10 or not, but it's aluminum case. It has the big output shaft like a Turbo 400 or TH 400, whatever your preferred name for it is called. But anyway, though, here it is. The case is dirty, but I've never actually cleaned it. It was actually really clean when I got it. The guy said it came out of a 75 Trans Am. So the writing's still on it somewhere, and it had like 35 or 45,000 miles on it. So it might have up to like 50,000 miles on it total. It's a really good 4-speed, and it's for sale. Probably gonna post it for like 1,200 bucks, 1,000 bucks. It's gonna come with the hydraulic slave. It'll come if you have an automatic car and you want to put a 4-speed in it. It's gonna come with everything you need to run a 4-speed, either mechanical or hydraulic clutch. I mean, it's coming with everything: shifter, slave, or throwout bearing. Depending if you want to go hydraulic or manual. I got the linkage for it. I got the original Z-bar somewhere. It's gonna have the bell housing with the ball stud on it. I mean, literally everything. I gotta find the Z-bar, but I have everything else. The only thing you're gonna need is a set of pedals, or a clutch pedal. And you know, I was spinning the input shaft, and it's a little easier to spin than I remember it. But this one, this Tremec over here, is still way easier. I mean, you can set it, you can spin it with your hand, and it'll keep spinning. It's that much easier to spin. This one, it stops. So yeah, I ended up just laying underneath it and bench pressing it, like I said I thought about doing. It slid out of the splines of the clutch real easy. But the slave that I have for the hydraulic part, that like was not the easy part. That was a pain in the ass. Like, it fits on that shaft tight. And I was pulling it out, and I kind of got a little wedge down there, and I was like holding it with my left hand and reached up there with my right hand and popped it off, and I got it to come down. And then the next thing I know, I have this trans on my chest, and I have no way of getting it off. And I'm like, oh. So I moved it down towards more of my torso, and ended up like bear hugging it, and then like turning and putting it in it, like bear hugging it, like gently laying it on the ground and just sliding it out from under the car. And then I slid out on the driver's side. But I had a moment there. I'm just like, oh man, I should have brought my phone with me so I could call someone to get some help. Because I almost started to panic. I'm like, how am I going to get the hell out of here? But, so there you go. Keep your communication device with you. So anyway, though, there it is. Last time it's going to be out. It's for sale. I thought about keeping it. If anybody wants it, but they want to lowball me on the price, I'll keep it. It's paid for. I mean, and it's a good trans. It shifts good. I had a guy when I worked at the diner. He tried to, I broke them all. I broke Muncie's. I broke BorgWarners. I broke the ones I never had problems with was a Saginaw. They'd whine like hell, and I'm just like, yeah, whatever, Jeff. But this is the strongest factory 4-speed. It's stronger than the Rock Crusher. The Rock Crusher has a little itty bitty output shaft on it. I would shift on the limiter. I mean, I would bang the limiter and shift. Or, the motor would still be spinning. I would let off the throttle, of course, but the motor would still probably be spinning, $6 grand plus when I throw it in the next gear, and I mean, it shift at high RPMs a lot, and it never skipped a beat. It's a good transmission. It's good 4-speed. So, because I had that question too, how's it shift behind that LS motor? Funny story about that. It shifts pretty fucking good. So, it'll take it. So, if anybody is in Northwest Ohio, wants a trans, BorgWarner T10, it comes with all the goodies. As long as this clutch isn't destroyed, I'm gonna sell the clutch with it too. And that was how much did I spend? I think I spent like $300 or $400 on that clutch back in the day. So, and by back in the day, I mean like 3 years ago. So there it is, guys. And under the floor here, I found more holes, of course. Basically, it was all seam sealed shut, and that's why, I mean, it had like an inch of seam sealer, and now that I got through this, so I think, I'm gonna talk to the neighbor about it, but I think we might as well just go in there and just cut out a big section and just patch over all of it. It's pretty ugly, so, and, you know, this thin ass metal welding, it'll be pretty ugly, but, yeah, if you're gonna do patch jobs, and sell cars, try not to half-ass it and really royally screw the next guy over. That'd be great. So that's where I'm at, guys. We're up to like 172 subscribers now. That's freaking awesome. Shout out to those guys that all have subscribed, and stay posted, because the next thing that gets to go in is this guy. And I got a monster twin disc. It's the LT1S clutch that's going in it. I went back and forth. I'm like, well, do I want to get another McLeod? But I don't know. A friend of mine, he researches it more, and he went with the LT1S. I guess the McLeod, you gotta like have it balanced to do some other like setup work to it. I didn't want to deal with any of that. I want to bolt it in and I want to go, because like spring's here, it's been here, and it's fucking go time. Like, I don't want to be screwing around and having to spend more money to get something worked on and all. No. Monster clutch, they got the reputation. They've went 7s and different cars. My buddy had it in his Corvette, and you know, I've seen them work, so that's what I went with, you know. So excited for that. I'm excited for everything. This thing's gonna be great, you know. So stay posted. All right, guys. So I'm pretty pleased to have gotten everything out today. Got the bell housing sitting back here. The bolts, right here's the bell housing. It's out, as you can see, right there. And bolts for that, they when we put it back in, we didn't like use a torque wrench. The first time when we had everything out on the ground, this is back well before I ever decided to do a YouTube thing. We like torqued the bolts and made sure everything was done up, you know, the proper way. And then the other time, you know, when we had to pull it out of the car to do the clutch swap, you know, we didn't have trying to put a glove on. All right, sorry. We didn't have a way to torque them inside the car, because it's just so tight. You can't really get a wrench or anything in there. And so we did the old German torque spit of good and tight. And I was trying to get them out. I was like, Jesus, who the hell tightened these bolts in there? Because they're a real pain in the ass. Now, the first clutch I bought was off Summit Racing. I don't know what brand it was. It was an El Cheapo. It was $117. I remember it was $117. And that lasted like a couple months worth of driving. Not even a couple months, because we didn't get this thing running until it was cold outside. And it lasted 6 passes the drag strip. We went to Dragway 42 in West Salem, Ohio in November, because their whole thing is, we'll go until we can't. It was in November, and that's when the car ran the fastest pass it ever ran, with Garrett behind the wheel, of a 12:08 at 116 mile an hour with a 185 60-foot. So, and that was with no tuning or whatever, or anything either. And really, there's still more left in it. So we were super impressed. So I had this El Cheapo clutch. last pass, Garrett, he slipped it pretty good. He's like, hey, I might have left a little bit of your clutch on the starting line. You know, whatever, shit happens. I wasn't upset or anything about it, but it smelled like burnt clutch bad. And then I drove it a little bit, and I was not easy on that clutch when I did drive it. And so yeah, it would get fired up next year, take it down the road to the gas station, put some gas in it. It was already, you know, I let it run for like 10 minutes, let it get up to temperature. Garrett was with me, and the first thing I do, of course, is we gotta blow the dust off of it. So I rip on this thing all the way down the street to the gas station, and I rip on it all the way back through the gears. And I drive it around a little bit more, like another week or so, and I'm like, man, this thing, something don't feel right. And I took my friend Reagan for a ride with me, and she's like, oh my god, this thing's fast. I'm like, no, this thing, like, I'm like, this thing is slow right now. Like, this clutch is not liking life right now. It is slipping bad. And we tried to do a burnout, second gear, and I was spinning the tires, but the clutch was slipping at the same time. And it was at that moment I was like, we have a problem. Like, we shouldn't be burning the tires and the clutch at the same time. And Garrett, he was just like, oh, you're full of shit, it's fine, yada yada yada. And I drove it down to his parents' house because he was down there. And I'm just like, like going down, and it sounded like a automatic transmission low on fluid. And he's like, oh, it's probably fine, it probably just wore, and the fingers are wanting to stick back farther, and there's no room because there's a shim in there, and you know, we'll have to pull the trans, and you know, so I did all that. I pulled the clutch out, I pulled it out, and I'm like, oh my god, this clutch it's done. And I called Garrett, and he was down at his parents' house again that day. He's like, well, bring it down, I want to, you know, we want to look at it. I bring it down there, and he looks at it, he goes, oh my god, this thing's junk. So I was like, all right, I'm not putting another one of those clutches in it. Like, that thing did not hold up. So I seen on Summit, McLeod had this street strip clutch. Half of it was ceramic, the other side of it was organic, and it was like $300. And it was supposed to be rated for 500 horsepower, and it had some decent reviews on it. You know, it was a street strip clutch, and I'm like, that's just what I'm looking for right there. So, against Garrett's judgment, I actually bought it. And right here it is. I got it out of the car, sitting here on the ground. Now, I'm impressed with the way that it held up. I put this glove on because I just cleaned my hands off, and I didn't want to get black clutch dust all over my hands again because it's kind of a pain in the ass to get off. But anyway, though, here, let me pick this thing up. Now this, is there something I can set it on? Make it easier to film. I'll just set it right here on the ground. There's light here. Alright, so on this side, make sure everything's in frame. Alright, yep, everything's in frame. On this side is the ceramic side, and you'll see that there's a part of it that's like brand new, it's never been worn. That's right here. And that's because this is a clutch for a small block Chevy, and I have a flywheel that's for a 2007 through 2013 half-ton truck. Believe it or not, they did exist. They did make manuals. They're very few between. They came with like a 4.8, I believe. I don't think you could get one with a 5.3. And so I'm going to keep my flywheel because it's kind of an oddball, and if I ever want to do anything like this again, like, you know, LS swap a C4 Corvette and make it into a go-kart, gonna need that flywheel. And there's a special bushing, pilot bushing that you need for that, and a couple other small things I can't remember off the top of my head, but it can be done. The proof's right there. You can hook an LS motor up to an old school 4-speed. So anyway, though, here's the ceramic side, and we get a closer look here. You see, there's plenty of life left on this clutch, on the ceramic side. Now I'll flip it over here to the organic side. Again, let's make sure everything's in frame. And it's worn, but however, we get up close and personal here, there is plenty of meat left there. You know, I don't know how well you'll be able to see on the camera, but in person, when I get the close up to it, the whole blind eye, LOL, and examine it, you can see that yes, it's worn, but there's life on it. Now, this was in the car for like 2.5, maybe 1.5, 2.5 driving seasons. I can't remember. Actually, I bought this in 2018. So, yeah, I went through a season and a half of driving. So there's not, you know, there's maybe 6,000 or 7,000 miles on this or more, but let me tell you, these were hard miles. I mean, I averaged my fuel economy out one week and I got 6.25 miles to the gallon. This motor, we're gonna do some air bleed swaps on the on the carburetor. I almost said clutch. And we're gonna do that because this thing, like just cruising down the road, it likes to load up. You can see from the inside of the tailpipes here. Make sure it's in frame. But you can see it's black in there. Evidence would show from it being, evidence would show from the exhaust and the inside of the headers and stuff being that black that this thing runs rich, and it smells rich, and everything suggests that it runs rich. So the only way to you know, clear it out would be to beat on it. So I'd get it warmed up and I'd bang it through the gears, and I'd bang the rev limiter, and I would rip on it, and I'd rip on it hard to clean the plugs out. And I did that damn near every freaking time I took the car out. Just keep plugs from, you know, get them getting hot, get them burn all that carbon off. And so yeah, I'm impressed with that clutch for 300 bucks. And you know, all things considering, everything that I did to that clutch, that McLeod street strip deal, I don't know if it has a name or what the name of it is. It's on Summit Racing. It was 300 bucks at the time. If you're interested, look it up. Yeah, it was a good buy. I recommend it. Now, I went with Monster because I've seen some reviews on the McLeod twins, and you know, weren't too favorable. But I addressed that earlier. Like I said, I went with the Monster clutch, and yeah. So anyway, though, the single disc McLeod street strip, I guess you could call her an El Cheapo. They handled good. So you know, anybody with a street ride with a little bit of power that wants the, you know, a decent upgrade, you know, there you go. Another thing too is when we went to the track with it, this clutch here, it has a bunch of passes on it. Garrett was driving, and because I let him, Garrett, he's made a lot of passes in this car. But anyway, though, it was the first time I went out and do clutch, and the first two passes, the first to second gear shift, when you went to shift, it would just let out a huge puff of white smoke. And I'm just like, ooh, that's not good. And I figured, I was like, oh man, the clutch wasn't, you know, I was like, oh man, we're gonna have to put another one in there. But guess it wasn't that big of a deal. And I didn't do the proper break-in time. I drove it around for a little bit, then decided I was gonna try a second gear burnout, and the tires did not spin. I spun the clutch. So you know, if they say break them in, break them in. Well, other than that, you know, those two incidents, you know, white smoke puff and trying to do that second gear burnout, and it didn't go. This thing's been rock solid. I mean, and it grabs hard. Those seats, my back was killing me one time. I dumped a clutch and a shock, and the car, man, it cracked my back, put me back in place. I felt great afterwards. So there you go. Anyway, 172 subscribers, I think, now. I really appreciate everybody like, comment, subscribing, all of that stuff. Let's build this channel bigger, better, badder together, and make America fast again, and make America love horsepower again, and burnouts and all that great stuff. And hope you guys continue to like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching.